Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri. On today's show, we will meet Farida Lokhandwala, a young healthcare practitioner born and raised in the bustling Andheri suburbs of Mumbai city and currently living and working in the San Francisco Bay Area in the US. With a bachelor's degree in occupation therapy from the prestigious T.N.Medical College of Mumbai, Farida went on to do her master's specializing in sensory integration therapy at University of Southern California at Los Angeles. Her work is helping differently abled children and adults to find a dignified life for themselves. Outdoor camping in California and being a mother to a 4.5-year daughter provides Farida the energy to be who she is. Welcome, Farida, to this episode of Wings Podcast.
Hello, how are you?
All well, Farida. I'm so happy that we are recording this conversation in the time zone that you are in. I mean, though with internet technology, it doesn't matter where you are and where I am. But yeah, it feels so good and nice to be in your backyards in the Bay Area, where I'm visiting right now. And we could find time to do this recording. So how does it feel for you?
First of all, I feel like amazing being on this podcast, having heard some of the earlier podcasts you guys have done and all the amazing things the people in those podcasts who are featured have kind of achieved and been through. So it just feels great to be a part of this podcast series. And it's always good to be in the same time zone. Like, even though with technology, like you said, you can always work around it, but having that same sunlight coming on both of us is good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's jump in into a conversation, and let's start with the kind of work that you're doing in this field called occupation therapy. And for somebody like me who doesn't understand much, specializing in the area of sensory integration therapy. So why don't you walk us through about your education and practice in this space called OT and SI?
Sure. So occupational therapy by itself, I think a common misconception is that people hear the word occupation, right? So they associate it with like vocation or job related things. It can be that and much more. So occupational therapy is helping people engage in meaningful activities for their age and stage in life. And we help you do that and support you do that. So it can be for a school going kid, it is participation in the classroom. For an adult, it's a geriatric patient, it's going to the bathroom independently. For a person who's had a hand injury, it can mean like returning back to work. So whatever age or stage you are in your life, by engaging in meaningful activities, exercises, we help you get back to your life. And coming to the specialization in sensory integration, that is something I got interested back in college. So a little bit about my journey, like uh, in Nair Hospital, T.N.Medical College, where I did my bachelor's in occupational therapy, we were exposed to a number of different like fields and like practices in OT and fields in OT right from the first year itself. There was orthopedic, mental health, OPD patients, cardiac patients, and of course, pediatrics. So I think it was around the third or fourth year when I first worked with like pediatric population. And I immediately felt a connect. I thought, this is what I want to do. This is so much fun. It's literally playing with kids in a therapeutic form and helping them achieve their goals. So there was an instant connect and I fell in love with it. While at Nair, I also learned about sensory integration, which is, we have like 5 senses that everybody knows about, like our
Mm-hmm.
sight, our touch, taste, hearing, and our sense of smell, the olfactory. But other than that, there are a few other senses that help us kind of go through our day-to-day life. One of them is vestibular, which is our sense of body movement and positioning, and balance, coordination. And there's proprioceptive sense, which is our sense of body positioning and body awareness. Along with that, you have, of course, interoception, which tells you if you're hungry or, just tells you your body cues. But all these like 7, 8 senses help you function and get through your daily life. So what happens is your brain gets input from all these senses on a daily basis. It processes information and then it tells you how to react to these sensations. But sometimes, uh, your brain can feel like the signal given out is too strong or too weak. So an example would
So let me take a, interrupt you over here, because
yeah.
what you're trying to say over here is connecting me to something which probably I take for granted in my life. So, just because before the podcast recording, I ate upma for breakfast.
Okay.
Now, just help me decipher in what I'm just about to narrate to you, this upma eating experience. If you can decipher this experience through the OT lens, or let's say sensory integration lens, because that will probably help me get it right. So the upma was ready in a pot. There were some empty plates and spoons left next to it. My wife had made it, and I had about half an hour before the recording, so I went there, picked up the plate, served myself the upma. There was a little save there, and there's some, I like, fried kajus on top of the upma. So I kind of put that. And then, I had the upma. I actually went to I didn't sit on the dining table. I chose to sit on the sofa. I ate my upma. I kind of went back to the sink. And I have this habit that after I eat anything, I just wash and clean and keep it back. I just don't leave it on the table. And I just kind of washed and cleaned the whole thing and kept it in the basket for it to drip and dry. So this is what happened. So what is OT and SI in all this? Because for me,
Oh, of
this is
course.
normal living.
Yes. I think that's a wonderful example, Milan Uncle, because sometimes we take day-to-day activities that we can do easily for granted. But if you dissect these activities right from the first one, when your wife was cooking the upma, you could smell the upma. Once it was presented in front of you, you needed to know like how to orient your body and sit in front of a table so that you could eat it. Next was your sense of proprioception, like body positioning, and then how to grade the force. Should you hold the spoon with like too much pressure, or do you hold it so lightly that the spoon is falling out of your hand? So how much pressure to apply by holding a spoon? Your muscle strength and your fine motor strength of how you scoop the upma, in having enough shoulder strength that you can lift the spoon all the way to your mouth, having enough jaw strength so that you can chew all the crunchy bits that you like in the upma, and even the upma in general, and kind of manipulate the food around in your mouth. Swallowing. After that, knowing that I have to like use my other hand, which is bilateral coordination. When you coordinate two sides of your body, your helper hand to hold the bowl, and then your right or dominant hand to scoop. So all those little things, you're constantly like using all the different senses. But over time, your brain has learned to do this in a very automatic way. So you are not like consciously thinking, I need to do this or this. It is all an automated process. But for somebody whose sensory signal is either too strong or too weak, each of the step becomes very intentional and difficult sometimes. And they can have like, especially let's talk about kids, they can have like difficulties right from the time getting to the meal time, feeding, having meltdowns during meal time. So some of these sensory challenges really contribute to the overall participation in various activities.
So, this drama that probably got played in a 7-8 minute of eating the upma and then cleaning my plate, I somehow take it for granted. I mean, the phrase unconscious competence come to my mind. So this competence is pretty unconscious to me, and this is how I have lived all my life. But if you can just take a simple example of any child or a young adult whom you are working with right now, or you have worked, where your work in OT and SI has helped that particular person to the extent of becoming independent by themselves, if I can use that word, that will be so interesting to know.
Yeah, so I can share an example of a kid I've worked over the years with. So I have a little bit of a journey with him. He started off when he was around 8 years of age with me. And he had a lot of difficulty with auditory processing, challenges with movement. So his vestibular input, challenges with proprioceptive input. And the way you would see that was like he would have frequent meltdowns, like scripting, screaming, aggression in classroom, because even a little bit of an auditory sound, which is not preferred, would trigger that child.
How old was the
like
kid?
For 8 years of age.
Okay.
So like an example would be like if somebody would say a certain word, like let's say Christmas, for example, and he is not liking that word, that would spoil the rest of his day, because he would have such a challenge going through the rest of the day due to that auditory trigger, and he would script that word. And even noise, like something falling down, something moving too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
everything was a very big challenge for him. So when he came, when I had first started working with him, of course, I did like his initial assessment, sensory profile and stuff like that. I did observations. And based on that, I realized that he has a lot of challenges with auditory processing, vestibular, proprioceptive, tactile processing. So we started doing sensory integration therapy with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun because I initially focused on rapport building, getting to have that one-on-one connection. He was really into like building Legos. So we use Legos as a big part of therapy. Getting his interest in therapy while he was doing like climbing on things, going under things, swinging, doing heavy work, but
Mm-hmm.
not making him feel like, oh, I'm doing so much in therapy of 45 minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
making it more play based and interest based for him. And over time, like I think currently he is around 12 years of age.
Oh.
The main differences we've seen in him is like he sits through an entire school day with like zero tantrum behaviors. And when you say tantrum behaviors for this kid specifically, the definition was like, of course, like I mentioned, like scripting, screaming, not being able to participate, throwing items or objects, or swatting at people. So his tantrum behavior has significantly reduced because his ability to tolerate all these sensory input have gradually increased.
But this has
So
taken 4 long and laborious years. Would that be right to say that?
yes, of course, because sensory integration, like any other kind of therapy, is a gradual process. It's not like a one and done kind of thing. You have to like try and implement these strategies on a daily basis. Like that kid is coming, that or that student is coming for therapy like once or twice during the week. Along with that, we have a very elaborate home program where mom or the parent is also trying to incorporate these activities regularly at home, so that child is engaged in repetitive sensory activities that lightly challenge his neural system.
So
And
your
he's
work
forming.
would involve not only working with this 8 or year old kid, but even then working with the parents too, right? Is that right?
Yes, home education is a big part because, uh, due to the current circumstances, and even in general, like a therapist will get to work with a kid once a week, twice a week, even thrice a week max.
Mm-hmm.
After that, for carryover purposes, for effectiveness, the best case scenario is if there is like continuation at home. So parent education, teaching them tricks and how we do things in the session, but how they can do things at home is really helpful for the kids' overall progress.
So let's kind of understand this. Let's dive deeper over here, because this is a very different kind of healthcare that you're talking of. Uh, let's help me understand. What is the OTSI education, occupation therapy and sensory integration education that you went through over a 4 or 5 year course in T.N.Medical in Mumbai, and then what you did at USC in LA? How did one build over the other from your own skills building perspective, preparing you to do what you're doing right now?
Yes. So I think I shared the first part of my journey with you, like how my interest in pediatrics
Yes,
kind of got
yes,
me into like thinking about what is more in this
yes,
area.
yes.
From there onwards, I heard about sensory integration and how it's like this play-based therapy, and I started finding out more. And I came across this university, which was USC, University of Southern California, which was the pioneer back in the 1970s. A lady called Jane Ayres, she kind of found sensory integration, and she was the one who came up with this whole theory and all the different treatment modalities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got really, really interested in this university and kind of wished for and hoped for that, wouldn't it be wonderful, how one thinks to oneself, like
Mm-hmm.
that if I get a chance to further my education and go to this amazing university and learn more about something I'm really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I was in my fourth year of OT, I was
That was in
kind of,
Mumbai.
yes, in
Mm-hmm.
doing my bachelor's.
Yes.
So I did 4.5 years of bachelor's, which
Mm-hmm.
is 4 years of coursework and 6 months of internship.
Yes.
And after that, I began my master's. And so I was applying to different schools, and I was hoping like somehow I would get into USC. So there's a long story to that. I also simultaneously got married around that time.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Interesting. Two big
So
transitions in life at the same time.
yes. I have these recollections of submitting my final thesis at Nair Hospital in Bombay Central after attending one wedding function in Surat, like
Oh,
full mehndi in my hands and going and submitting my thesis paper.
okay.
So it was a lot, but I'm glad I did it because that was like the age and space I wanted to do it, and I'm
Sure,
glad I did it.
sure.
So yeah, that was also around the time I'd met my husband, and he was based out of Dallas. So there was no inclination of us being in California as such.
Uh-huh.
But one thing led to the other, and my husband had to make a sudden shift within a few months to California.
Mm-hmm.
And that somehow opened up a lot of opportunities for me in terms of like, oh, I could apply to USC now that we're in California, because we tried finding for courses in Bay Area where my husband was based, and
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't find something that would be a good continuation to what I had done at Nair Hospital
Mm-hmm.
already. And the course at USC was a great course. Plus, it was like, of course, I would love to do it. So it was a no-brainer. And then I applied for it, and I got into USC for their OT program, masters, which was like a 1-year post-professional masters.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I did like the sensory integration training, which was another 3.5, 4 months of specialization just in SI.
No, this is so fascinating because, sometimes they say that, sometimes the universe conspires in ways unknown to get you where you are supposed to be in a context, in an
Yes.
environment. So you found a love of your life in your husband, who based in Dallas, but just because you wish to be in USC at LA, something magically happened for him to find a job in the
Yeah.
Bay Area. And you not only had a wonderful married life to begin with in the US, but you're also studying, so which is so marvelous. But let me rewind back, Farida, because as they say, present is a culmination of many events in the past. So
Mm-hmm.
in our earlier conversation, you talked to me about your love for science and everything biology, and this amazing teacher you had at school back in Andheri. So what was that school? Who was the teacher? And
Yeah.
tell us the story, and I would love to hear that again. How did you learn about fishes by going to the fish market? Tell me that. I want to hear that again.
Yes. So I went to this really amazing school. It was called Al Hasnath High School, which was this kind of learning by doing concept school. So from a very young age, we were taught to like experientially like do stuff. I remember learning about the plant cycle by actually planting different varieties of plants. When it came time to like do specializations, I had chosen like cookery, which was
Mm-hmm.
we had an option between computers, arts, and cookery. I chose cookery. So I remember one of the first lessons we did was about the different kind of sea life and fishes, and we actually went to the local fish market in Andheri. We looked and felt all the different fishes. Our teacher, for those who were a little more adventurous, even asked us like, why don't you try some fresh oysters and stuff like that, or mussels. So it was a really like sensory experience in that sense too, like we were learning by doing. And then when we were doing like life of an orange or like parts of an orange, we were actually bringing the fruits from home, dissecting them in school. Like we would be looking at our friends and going through each layers, like the endocarp, mesocarp. So it was a lot of in detail hands-on learning at my school, and that kind of built a real love for science in my heart, especially biology, because I always found the human's body, the human brain, very fascinating.
Interestingly, how you must be, what, 10, 12, 14 years age that time?
Oh yeah, 10 or 12,
Yeah.
and then later on 14.
So this 10 or 12-year-old Farida, who was learning about fishes, going to the fish market, learning about oranges by bringing the orange at school and peeling it and looking at the endocarp and other aspects of the fruit, and going through this beautiful experience of learn by doing. And I think hats off to your teacher, whoever he, she is. My salam to that person. But in many ways, this is what you are doing today in OT, isn't it? Helping your people to learn by doing.
Yes, I did not see that connection, but yeah, based on a previous conversation, thank you for pointing out that to me. And that kind of tells you that life is a big circle, right? Like it all comes down to like, it's a big circle. Life is a big circle. Like I did not see the connection, but it's very, very connected. uh, I love to do things by experiencing them, and that's what I'm hoping that my students who I work with currently do the same. Currently I work with like students who are on the moderate to severe end of the autism spectrum, so they are very impacted by autism, but I want them to do everything, try everything by themselves for getting independent and more functionally able to do things other than like other people doing for them.
And what is this name of the organization or school or hospital that you're currently working in? What is it called?
It's called the Creekside School. It is this amazing school, and the vision and the motto of the school is improving the quality of lives of students and their families.
So this
So that
Creeks,
is the
there's a
mission.
Creekside, and where is this Creekside side school located at the moment?
It's located in San Jose.
So this Creekside school in San Jose, California, is it only for such children, or is it for other children too?
So this school is specifically geared for kids who are
Differently
severely
abled.
impacted. Yes, severely impacted by autism, because
Okay.
that is where the need is. For kids, because autism is an entire spectrum. You can have like mild, moderate, severe,
Mm-hmm.
and so kids who are a little more independent per se are able to go to regular schools or even special day classes in regular schools, so there is more placement opportunities for them and
Mm-hmm.
more programs and like available stuff for them. But these kids who are more on the moderate to severe end, who need more support, who need more individualization of curriculum, that
Mm-hmm.
is where the absolute need is, and that's where the school comes in.
So wonderful. So quickly, let's jump back again in time. And I like this going back and forth in time because, Christopher Nolan is my favorite director. Inception being one of his movies that I'm kind of almost always on, there. Uh, let's jump back and go back to this little 8 or 10-year-old Farida growing up in this very, very busy place called Andheri. What was the life of that little Farida growing up? If we can hear that quickly.
Life was really busy because like most kids, like school was the main part of life. So morning 8 to 2:30, 3 o'clock school, up till about 8th grade, and then just coming home, relaxing, loving to go down and playing with building friends, a
Yes.
concept I wish my daughter could experience, because it was natural play and so much, taught you so much.
Correct.
So after school, change, eat food, get fresh, and go down and play with building friends for an hour or two, then come up, relax, and then dinner and bedtime. So that was most of it till around 10, 12 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
And then even later, it was pretty much the same. But I lost my dad when I was around 12 years of age.
Oh.
So that was a big part of my life. Like that was really challenging growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of made me a little more aware of my surroundings, and makes you a little more mature when you lose one of your parents at such
Of
an
course,
early and
no doubt.
impressionable age.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was around in the 6th grade and I lost my dad. And even after that, I'm so thankful, because that was one of the advantages of coming from like a family where you live with your dadi, like my
Yes.
grandmother, and then my mom was there. So between my grandmother and my mom, and of course my extended families on both sides,
Yes.
I never felt less than, or I did not have anything that I needed more for. But not having a parent can always be something you
No
miss out
doubt.
on.
No doubt. And I think this proverb called "it takes a village to raise a child" is so very true to India, where thanks to this large extended family, as you very rightly said, on both sides, who kind of look after all of us, and this is the joy of. And I think I'm very happy this is also playing out in 21st century India. So let's play a small game if you don't mind, because Rucha, my niece, who has been your dear friend from your USC days, she told me, I think you and Rucha were living together, right?
Yes, yes, we lived my entire duration at USC. The 1 year I spent in LA, I lived with Richa. We were our
And
first roommates.
Rucha says that, for me, Farida is family for life, and I'm sure it must be for you. as well.
Yes, it was
But
a bonding experience.
so Rucha tells me that both of you, in your year that you lived together in that little cockroach-full house in LA,
Oh,
had a lot of fun, and you have a taste for a lot of fun. So let's play a small game here. Is it okay? Are you up for it?
yes, sounds exciting.
Okay. Let's say you are having a dialogue with your 18-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
the Farida who entered into the first year college at T.N.Medical. If you were to say something to her right now, what would you tell her?
I would just tell her to breathe and stop overthinking, because as a young person with so many uncertainties about so much, your mind is constantly overthinking and analyzing everything. And I remember being that 18-year-old who was trying to just like, what next? What should I do next? What is next? Like that next. And I would just be like, breathe, Farida, relax. Enjoy this. Enjoy being 18. Enjoy your first year in college. Just take it all in and enjoy and breathe.
And if that 18-year-old Farida were to say
Mm.
something to the 30-year-old Farida today, what would she say?
She would just say, that's a good question.
Just one line. What would she say? Just one line.
It all worked out. It all worked out in the end. Yeah.
Okay, let's fast forward in time. And if the Farida of today were to say something to the Farida who is 15 years from now, your future self, what would you tell her? What would you tell now to your future self?
I would just hope, and I would ask her, I hope you're happy. I hope you're content. I hope you're satisfied and have no regrets.
And what would that future self respond back to you now?
Hopefully, it would say yes. And it would also tell me, Farida, take care of your health and body more.
Wonderful, Farida. So, Farida, as we are coming close to this conversation, which has been so wonderful and so beautiful, because, I have lived my life growing up in Mumbai city, and I love that city, though I live in Pune now. But I'm so happy and excited to see you where you are today. And I'm sure you've made yourself proud, you've made your family proud. And if there are certain desires or wishes that you have for yourself, that this is what I would want Farida to pursue passionately as she's doing everything today, what would your dreams and hopes for yourself be?
My dreams for myself, my number one dream would be that I'm able to raise a very emotionally healthy child, and emotionally, physically, mentally healthy child.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 4.5 year daughter who's the joy of my life, and I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely adore her. And my hope would be that I just raise her in a manner where she learns to respect everyone around her, is independent and rooted.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that, for my personal, I just wanted to be like happy and be more present in the moment. Even now, that's something I constantly work on, not think about the future, what is today going to be like. And my health, I think I want to prioritize my health in the coming years. I want to start working out more frequently and just be more focused on what goes inside my body as well.
Farida, Wings podcast is also about young Indians like you, and there have been some amazing young Indians who have come on the show prior to this episode, and there'll be many more who will come going forward. One of the beliefs and convictions we, Asha and I, as the creators of the podcast, have is here is a young generation who is very deeply rooted in Indian values, and Indianness is their essence. Yet they are so comfortable wherever they're in the world, being where, whatever they are doing. So Indian yet global, and living those beautiful best parts of both. So how do you see that? how do you hold the Indianness in you? And how do you see that balance of that Indianness playing out with the American life that you're living in California today?
I just feel thankful for like the kind of cultural exposure I had growing up in India. Like most of us who grew up in India, we grew up with such diverse cultural backgrounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody knew everybody. It was a very community feel. You had a very ability to connect and talk to anybody. And that kind of helps you later in life as well, where you make friends easily. You're able to kind of navigate through different personal and professional um, mediums a little more easily because you have been doing that from such a young age. Other than that, like languages, our brains are exposed to so many languages from such a young age. Like most Indians can say they can at least speak 3 or even more languages, which if you think of like the kids, like for example my daughter growing up, that's a conscious decision we have to make, that we keep talking to her in our mother tongue, which is Gujarati. So like we keep talking
So
to
you
her in,
speak to her in Gujarati at home?
yes, I do. I try to always talk to her in Gujarati because that's how she will pick up on the language.
Mm-hmm.
um, because other than that, English is going to be the only language she's going to learn at school, and maybe later in high school they have more options for like picking up other languages.
Mm-hmm.
But just for brain development and for so many other reasons, like learning so many languages is so great, and we get that opportunity. Most of us know Hindi, our mother tongues, and English,
And being in
and
Mumbai, knowing Marathi as well.
Marathi as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we are
yeah.
so blessed, isn't it? I mean, so I'm born in Ahmedabad, by the way. Uh,
Oh,
my father comes from Ahmedabad. My mother is from Baroda, though I have kind of grown up in Mumbai city. Gujarat Samachar was a paper that used to come home every day. So we had a
Gujarat
Gujarat,
Samachar
yeah,
was
Gujarat.
also the paper that came to my house every day because my dadi used to swear by that.
Correct. So we had Gujarat Samachar, we had Maharashtra Times in Marathi, and we had Times of India in English. And of course, Hindi is something which we all Indian know. So I think, yes, you are absolutely right. We are blessed to learn at least 3, if not 4, for sure.
Mhm.
And I think, I know you watch Netflix. Have you seen that Emily in Paris?
Oh, I love that show. Yes, I have seen
Yeah.
that.
So there is this, I don't know, Frenchman or a Dutchman who tells this young American called Emily, who is living in Paris, that the year that you are here, try and learn at least 4 European
Mhm.
languages, and each language will make you a different person.
Yes,
Isn't that
because the
beautiful?
dialect, the way you speak it, yes, that's beautiful.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, Farida, I mean, I am so excited to have this conversation with you, and I hope the next 10, 12 days that Asha and I are still around in the Bay Area, we at least get to meet in person and have a cup of chai together. Let's figure that out.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. Let's do that.
Yeah. So as we end
Yeah.
this conversation, what are you feeling? What is on your mind? What are you saying to yourself? And how, where are you right now at the end of this 35 minutes of conversation?
I feel great. I mean, coming into it, I was a little bit nervous, but I think you have a natural knack of putting the opposite person at ease.
Mhm.
So the conversation felt very effortless and it went by really smoothly.
I love jazz. I love jugalbandi in music. And as they say, one instrument can only sound better if the other accompanying instrument is equally beautiful and in harmony. So, let's give the credit to what happened just now. And, much of it is, as they call it, as an unfolding drama, and which has been so wonderful. So thank you so much, Farida. Do the wonderful work that you are doing today, and spread joy and happiness in the lives of those little children in Creekside School that you are working with, and let them add to the joy of your life. Take good care of yourself, and what shall I say? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and giving me this wonderful opportunity.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.